Sometimes even wild creatures need a helping hand. This man saved a lynx cub and her dying mother, and how did they repay him? It was unbelievable. Jason left his cabin early one morning to go to work. It was winter, and everything was covered in snow, including his cabin. He lived next to a natural area, and as a wildlife photographer, he could see animals any day without even leaving his home. This cold time of year was one of his favorite periods to capture some amazing photos. That day, he took stunning pictures of deer and an eagle, but as darkness began to fall, he returned home smelling hot cocoa and the fire he was about to light. But something interrupted his mission to warm up, an incredible opportunity. He heard a loud meow from somewhere nearby. Subscribe to the channel. He looked around and found a lynx cub in the snow. Its meowing sounded more like crying, and it looked distressed. This cub was very small, and there had to be a family nearby. While he looked around, he didn't see any other cubs or its mother, so he moved slowly to check on it. It was hiding behind a bush, and when he carefully walked around the bush, he was finally able to see it clearly. He also found the rest of the family. There was a large tree trunk where the mother and the cubs had made their den. There were other cubs playing outside, and the mother looked like she was sleeping at the entrance. It was a wonderful opportunity, and Jason raised his camera to his face, but when he looked through the lens, the scene shocked him. The cubs were adorable, but it was the mother who caught his attention, and more importantly, the large red stain that tainted the snow beneath her. He forgot to take pictures and moved closer. The cubs ran to the den, but the mother didn't move. She had a large wound on her side and was unconscious, but he saw that she was still breathing. He had to help her by tying the scarf around her neck to stop the bleeding, but he knew she would need much more care. He had to take her to the cabin, but taking the mother also meant taking the cubs. He knew that he couldn't make all of them follow him. The cubs started to come out. When they saw that the mother didn't attack the man, they didn't understand that their mother couldn't object to the help even if she wanted to. When they started playing, they were everywhere. They didn't go far, but they were running in all directions. It would take a long time to make the cubs follow him home, and it was time the mother didn't have. He ran home and brought the biggest backpack he could find, grabbed a blanket, and then returned to the lynx family. Wearing thick gloves to protect himself from the cubs' sharp claws, he carefully picked up each cub and put it in the backpack. There were 7 cubs in total, and they were very busy. Luckily, they were still very young, or they wouldn't have fit in the backpack. He checked the den, made sure there were no other cubs, then put the backpack on his back. It wasn't easy. The backpack moved a lot, but it was better than trying to carry them in his arms. He covered the mother with the blanket and carried her back home. He just hoped she wouldn't wake up and scratch his eyes out from fear. But she had lost a lot of blood and didn't seem to realize what he was doing at home. He lit the fire prepared earlier to warm the mother. He had a large dog crate that he used for the big dog he had recently lost to old age. Jason quickly took the crate and put all the cubs inside. They were safe in there. While he was helping the mother, he returned to her with the first aid kit and gently removed the blanket. The wounds were deep, and it seemed she had been bitten by a large predator, maybe a wolf. Most likely, the clever lynx used the trees to climb and escape, which is one of the few ways she could have gotten away and survived. Somehow, the mother made it back to the den and her cubs, but she lost a lot of blood in the process. Jason had some first aid experience from his time in the military, and he had also completed a few courses in veterinary animal care since coming to Alaska. He had rescued his share of wild animals and cared for them until they recovered. For this reason, he kept some emergency veterinary medicine on hand. He cleaned her wounds, and although they were deep, they didn't seem to have hit anything vital. He cleaned the wounds and stitched them up, then gave her antibiotics that were safe for animals. After that, all he could do was hope and wait. The nearest shelter was more than an hour away, and the closest veterinarian required a plane trip. He didn't have enough supplies to take care of 7 cubs. They all needed their mother to survive, so he watched her closely, and when she started to wake up, gently in the cage with her cubs, she woke up and didn't seem disturbed to see him. Instead, she started licking and feeding her cubs. Jason was surprised by how quickly she recovered. She was able to stand without crying out in pain, and she even started playing with her cubs a little. After a few days, it seemed that she started to feel bored. She no longer wanted to stay locked in a cage with all her cubs. Jason didn't blame her. They needed space to run and play. She looked healthy enough to return to the wild. He put the cage on its sled, something he hadn't thought of before. When he returned home and brought them back to their den, Jason was happy about the mother's improvement, but he was still worried about her for a few more weeks. He would take the food and place it as close to the den as he could, without disturbing them, until one day he saw the mother with a rabbit in her mouth, and then he knew she could take care of herself again. Jason was happy that he was able to help the family. He had saved the lynx cub he saw first and heard the dying mother. But what he didn't know was that the family would soon repay him in an incredible way. Jason woke up early one morning to a lot of noise outside his front door. There was the sound of knocking and scratching coming from the front porch. At first, Jason was worried. In such a remote place, you have to be careful. Someone might be trying to break into your house. He wasn't taking any chances, so he grabbed his rifle, which he kept for safety, and quickly opened the window. There was no one with bad intentions. He just had some visitors. Most of us agree that visitors who come to your house at dawn without warning are not welcome, unless they are as nice as Jason's visitors were that day. In this case, Jason was happy to welcome them into his home. 7 lynx cubs were playing on his porch. He opened his windows and door and watched through the screen door. He had to keep his distance from them from then on, but that didn't stop him from going to the window and taking some amazing pictures. He watched them as they rolled around and played with their siblings. Every few minutes, one of the cubs would find a new piece of furniture to inspect, jumping onto his table and chairs where he used to have his breakfast. But Jason didn't mind that at all. It was amazing to see all these cubs in good condition. If Jason hadn't found them, it would have been a completely different situation for all these cubs and their mother. After a few hours of playing, the mother stood up and stretched, then climbed onto the balcony to see what her wild cubs were doing. That gave Jason the chance to see her wounds more clearly. The stitches had dissolved by that time. The whole family stood on the balcony, and Jason took family photos of all of them together. Then they left. It seemed that the mother was very grateful for the help. Jason stood and thought that his house was a safe place for her cubs to play. After about a year, the cubs grew up and left their mother. Jason always made sure they were safe there, just as they felt. This story showed that doing good can even affect future generations, and that was a great reward for his help. Thank you for watching. Join us again for more amazing stories.